Hello and welcome to the Car Podcast with Chris Harris and friends. Now, we are celebrating 100 podcasts, hence my comedy glasses, and everyone looking very relaxed and sunny and happy. I have to say that absolutely on time for the 100th recording, this has been the most chaotic build-up to a podcast I've ever had. In fact, I'm going to show you some of the rushes of the build-up right now.
I don't really know what they do. They obviously go in under your sack, do they?
Well, they think they make a small aperture and they go in and with... I mean, I can't even think about it myself.
You have to loop it out. They loop out your vas deferens. And
What?
The vas deferens is the thing that delivers sperm. So what they do is they make a little snick, they pull this loop out of the tube that does that, they clip it on both sides, cut it, knot it. The whole thing is hideous. What's he doing?
I don't know, but that is easily the best explanation of how a vasectomy works, with a bloke trying to unfold a map of Cornwall in the background. That should be at the fringe at Edinburgh. That should. There you go. That's what you call chaos. So thank you for joining us for our 100th episode, which will last, we hope, around about 100 minutes. And a lot of the themes will contain the number 100, because editorially we're limited and had no better ideas. So let's move on straight away to the first point on the agenda. What have you done in cars this week? All good news, or your favourite car that mentions the word 100. Let's go first to Neil Clifford.
Well, I was very lucky to be in California last week. I was very lucky to be in New York. But you know what? There's no place like home. There really isn't, especially when your dog lives there and especially when your cars live there. So it was just an absolute bloody pleasure to get home on Friday night and just doss around at home and fiddle around with a few cars with flat batteries or lots of little dramas, or start them up and do they start, and ringing Graham because the carburetors needs his screwdriver thing because it's not staying on tick over, and whatever little dramas you've got. It's just lovely messing around with cars. The good news is, clever Jason, who recommended me, because we were talking about my little breakdown with the 356 and waiting for the AA man, and then the AA man comes out 2 hours later, or the RAC man, and then you've got to wait for the man with the actual van. Join, and we need some sponsorship here, by the way. We're not very commercial, are we? We talk about things before people have given us money, which is not very clever. Anyway, the Britannia breakdown service, because the Britannia breakdown service, you pay 200 quid, and they've only got men with vans that will take you home in your car. You don't get the man that comes out and says, "Oh, your alternator's fucked. I think we're going to have to take you home." It's just breakdown men with to take you home, and it's 200 quid, which of course, if we are into old cars, we spend 200 quid on loads more useless shit than this. And I think it's a very good fallback thing that you can ring this number. I will obviously vouch in the future whether it actually works or whether it's all a little bit of a lie. But hopefully they've got access to all these independent men with recovery vans, and they say they come out and get you and take you home, and it's only 200 quid. So that was lovely. And
can I ask one question there, Neil? Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Do we think that might be a bit of a reset moment for that industry? Because how many people do you think, if they heard that, would go, "That's what I want. I've been paying to have a service that I don't want. What I really want is just, I don't want to have I want to persuade you to recover my vehicle conversation," which we always have. You always have to put on your, I'm going to persuade you to go through the first bit where you have to check the car, and we know I'm going to waste an hour and a half while someone tries to diagnose something they can't diagnose with a laptop from 14 years ago. Do you that could be a bit of a game changer, couldn't it? I haven't heard that. I was that tomorrow.
For me, it will be a game changer, because I don't know really. I'm sure there is someone's got a spreadsheet that it makes a lot more sense to send out the man, because they know that 47% of the breakdowns are just a flat battery, and therefore you can sell him a battery for 150 quid, and therefore it's much more cost effective. I'm sure there's a spreadsheet that says the EBITDA is higher.
There is a spreadsheet, and the boring reality is that, because I've had this conversation with chums at the AA, the data, because they do what the best answer is. And I think the data says that 70-80% of call outs they get, the patrol, they get the car going.
Yes.
So if they always sent out a lorry that was for recovery, then they probably would make less money and trucks would clog up, blah, blah, blah. But I think there was something...
I want to go in a lorry.
So
they never fixed
there was something interesting, though, in the proposition that says, we do recovery. We're not even going to think about trying to recover you, about trying to repair you. Our proposition is simple. It's the Ryanair of roadside assistance. All we do is recovery. It's a flat fee. There's no refund. Don't you go complaining. If your car doesn't fit or you're not there, we're going to go without you and charge you anyway. That's the Ryanair of recovery. That sounds like an interesting proposition as well.
Well, they're obviously the model is different. They're not employing anyone. I don't think it's
going
through independent. Yeah. So the spreadsheet is a different spreadsheet because they don't have to employ the man and pay his pension and pay this and pay that. They've just got a little slice of the recovery charge, and I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to breaking down now.
I'm excited. I'm more excited that Mr. Harris now does look like Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah. So I went for a little drive. You know what? Last thing to say, my favourite genre of cars, and we've probably done this question, I've just forgot because I've got my, oncoming Alzheimer's, is the four-seat cabriolet. I just love this genre of cars because you can take the dog. I've got this bit of an old crappy, actually. Looks cool, but it's a bit crappy. 220, right-hand drive, Mercedes, 1961, W109 or whatever it is. Little seats in the back for the dog. Roof's manual, no power steering, manual gearbox. It ticks all of the things you don't want on this model of car. It's got all of it. It's got all of the shit things. But you know what? I adore it. And we put a little picture on, and I did my little drive, and we went out for a coffee, and it was all bloody fabulous. And, there's no place like home. Really.
There is. It's where your cars and your dogs are. That's where home is.
Yeah. That's true.
Cars and dogs. Right, Chris Cooper, who's had, I think, quite a stressful day. We're now going to allow him, through the process of podcast catharsis, to release valve some of the steam that's in his head and tell us about his day and his week in cars.
And I've also had a little bit of ice in my glass of rosé, which is one of the other benefits of getting to 100 podcasts in our own identity with you good chaps. I've learnt so much from each of three of you. I've learnt from Manish that actually this is perfectly acceptable. You see, look, see the little lumps of ice in there? Yeah. So that actually it is very, very nice. So, and I've learnt something from each of you. And is that out of the pod of Thunderbird 2? Is that Jerry Anderson being ahead of his time again? I know what that is.
McMurtry. Hot Wheels. Sorry.
Yeah.
McNarrow.
Carry on, Chris.
McMurtry is a Mr. Not a million miles from here, actually. He's one of them lives this part of the world. I was trying to think what the best news is, and I thought I've thought about all of the 100 episodes, and I've thought, what's the sort of the happiest, goodest feeling I've had in the 100 episodes, when I thought, wow, this is amazing, this thing that we do, and makes everyone really happy and amazing. And it actually goes back to about 2 years ago when we just started this group of 100. We'd not done one or two in the 100. And Chris, you and I were at a track day at Silverstone. We weren't sort of together because you were with rich and famous people and I was with somebody else. But we were both at a track day at Silverstone.
Finlay, can you note that down as dig number 7? That's dig number 7. I want these counted, please, and I'll tot them up at the end, and then I'll deal with it the way I deal with it. Okay. Good man, thank you. Carry on.
And there were quite a lot of well-known people there, to the public, not and to us as well, and certainly to me. And walking out of the clubhouse at Silverstone, I noticed somebody who is well known as an enthusiast, a lover of the cars, motorsport, raced at Le Mans, Sir Chris Hoy. I didn't know Sir Chris at that point, and I saw him, and I thought, well, that's Sir Chris Hoy. Wow, and I sort of saw him, and I don't know him. I didn't know him. I sort of looked at him and looked away, thinking, well, I'll carry on going. And as I walked past him, in those unmistakable, beautiful, lovely Edinburgh Scottish voice that Chris has, I heard the voice behind me shouting, Chris, Chris. And I assumed that he'd seen you, Mr. Harris, because I knew that you two would know each other. So I just carried on walking. Am I upsetting your game of solitaire, Neil?
No. I'm just studying my top trumps.
Okay. And so I carried on walking.
Daytonas in the same pack. A plexiglass and a flick-up light.
They knew their stuff, didn't they?
That is worth it.
They knew their stuff, didn't they?
So you see.
So I assumed he was talking to you. I assumed that Sir Hoy had seen you. So I just carried on walking back to the pits. And I heard this sort of running of feet behind me and a hand on my shoulder. And as I turned around, I looked at this man's face and I thought, that's fucking Chris Hoy talking to me. And he said, I just want to say to you guys, I'm so pleased the four of you have started again. It's the favorite part of my week. And I went to say to him, this is amazing. I was really lovely to meet you. But actually what came out of my mouth was, I was totally starstruck and speechless. And I completely lost control of what goes on in there, what comes out in here. And sort of, that bit in Talladega Nights where the guy doesn't know where to put his hand. He said, I've lost control of my hands. And because I've no idea, that was me in that moment. And I went home that night, I said to Lynn, and I was just on a cushion of at home thinking, do you know what? Sir Chris Hoy listens to our podcast. He really likes it. And bless him, it was not long after that when he told us how unwell he is. And, he's a big fan of ours and we're a huge fan of his. And Finn's doing the Tour de Force. We're going to support that and give it lots of... So the 100 podcasts we've done so far, I've learned an awful lot more about my three chums, all of you, and people have said how, you guys seem to know each other. So at the beginning we didn't really, but we sort of do now, a bit. And I love that. I really love it. And I'm so pleased it makes people happy, and it's made me happy. And I've had an absolute fucking shit day today. And I'm 2 sips into my rosé and 10 minutes into this. And it's fine because I'm talking shit with my mates about cars. So that makes me happy. And that's why this podcast is great. And in the first 100 podcasts, thank Christ for that. Long may it continue.
There you go. You see, it's instant therapy, instant medicine. Manish, what have you done not in cars this week?
Have you driven a car, Manish?
How dare you? How dare you? I picked Lola up from Kent High Performance on Saturday morning. A very, very lovely man called Adam came down and picked me up from the railway station, went to Kent High Performance, had a good gander. Actually, a friend is having his Berlinetta Boxer. He wanted a 512 with carbs. He found his perfect one. What is that color that's a bit darker than the Rosso Corsa? It's kind of like almost like a blood red.
Darker red.
Darker red, yeah. It's Ferrari darker red.
Which car is it on, Manish? Which car?
On a Berlinetta Boxer, 512 carb.
Rosso Maranello.
Yeah, I think it is. It's Rosso Maranello. So he's having his Rosso Maranello car sorted out there, and I saw it up on a jack. I have to say, I do love going there. There was a bloke who turned up in a beautiful white 1987 Testarossa. He'd never bought a Ferrari before. He was checking it out and trying to make a decision about whether to buy or not. And I was just nodding a lot because can you imagine being Don Johnson? You are Crockett in that car. I mean, that was a hell of a car. But anyway, picked her up and drove her for about 5 miles and realized she was on nearly 0 miles left in terms of a fuel tank. The light was on and I had the total Neil anxiety. And I was like, I don't know Maidstone at all. So I was having a quick look to see where the nearest Shell station was. So there's a little 100 story. So I was bricking it. It took about 25 minutes to get there. Got there. put is it the 95, isn't it? Shell
99.
99.
No, it's 99 octane. But what do they call it? E5. E5. That's what
That's
it
right,
is.
yeah.
E5.
Yes. E5 99. So I'm putting in now. This is a bit of Italian mathematics. I'd like you all to help me with. Allegedly, Lola's got a 110-litre fuel tank, making it one of the biggest tanks in the world. Now, this tank was on, let's say, just less than an eighth. I mean, certainly the light was on. So what I did was, it was £1.79 per litre at this Shell station. So I put 55.86 litres in and just paused for a second because it was £100, and I knew we had this pod coming. So I just wanted to see how many litres that was. It was 55.86. Anyway, so I carried on going, and she actually topped out at just over £130. So that was another 16.75 litres. So if you add those two numbers together, you get 71 litres, right? I think that's right. Now,
Yeah,
she's got
74
100...
I got, but I missed the numbers, yeah.
Sorry, no. Well, 56. You're right. 56 plus 70. You're right. But the point is, she should therefore have had 30, because it was right. The dial was right on full, which means she couldn't have been on zero. She must have had 37 litres still left in the tank.
Or she
which
doesn't
is
have
impossible.
a 10-litre tank.
How can it read zero? Well, an eighth, but have 37.
Can I tell you? Can I interject and tell you? Back in the day, with certain makes of cars that came from Italy, or let's say the Maranello area, the way that you would test the fuel tank capacity and do your fuel consumption figures was to run the car until it spluttered, make sure you had someone with you, get to a fuel station straight away, and then brim. You had to wait ages because there were lots of different tubes going in and vacuum tubes coming out, and they would trigger the click on the pump before the thing was full. I never had reason to doubt that the fuel tank capacity claimed was correct, but you could be stood at a forecourt for 15 minutes trying to brim it, and you could then get incredible sort of vacuum situations where you'd be standing there, and a bit like a sort of gaseous pig, out of nowhere there would be a grumble and a noise, and it would piss a load of fuel out of the fuel filler. Lola is a living being, and you're messing with her gastric system. So I think this conversation has gone in the wrong direction, and I think, frankly, it's invasive.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just end it with this. It took a very, very long time to get those liters in. I mean, this must have been one of the slowest pumps. And while I was doing this, there was a very nice man who was with his wife in I think it was a green Hyundai, and he came out and he looked at the car, and he went, had a really good look at the car, and then he looked inside the car and he went, "What a nice car. Be better if it was a manual." Yeah, well, I just thought, like, I thought that was a little loaded. And he goes, interior's very beige. I think he had it.
That's a bit like, it's a bit like coming out of the hairdresser, having, not that I would experience this, but when I was young, you come out and you knew you'd had a bad haircut, and someone would go, "Shit haircut, mate," and you go, "I already know that. I don't need to know that anymore." Well, I've had an unusual week around cars, because I think for the first time in as long as I can remember, I've driven the same car every day. I haven't done that in, I can't remember how long. I never drive the same car on consecutive days, really, unless I'm away on a shoot. So I've driven the same car. I'll come back to that in a minute. I've also had a deep point of frustration. I'm still in America, and I've spent a lot of my week on a road that is one away from perfection. I've been on the 101 the whole time, which I'm not very good with numbers, but empirically it's kind of pissed me off quite a lot, because I've been thinking, can we find the 100, which of course is nowhere near where we are. I did think of driving to the 100, which would have been deeply romantic, but sadly unachievable. So I think I've been driving this Bentley Continental GTC Azure, which is a vastly expensive car that most of us can't afford, I know. But I have to say, it confirms what Neil Clifford said. The 4-seat, inverted commas, convertible is one of the greatest cars.
Yes.
And I'll clarify it, for the aging male. As you're younger, you don't really get them. But as you get older and you realise that if you could go back and read the magazine articles you did in the 1990s, you'd get a red pen out and just draw a line through Scuttle Shake, because it doesn't matter. because you don't drive it in that manner. So long as the fixes and fittings don't fall off in your hands or on your head, frankly, it doesn't matter if it wobbles a bit, because the joy of putting that roof down, smelling what's around you, and you just don't drive fast. I think the fastest I've been this week is 82 miles an hour. I'm consistently the slowest car on every journey. I'm holding people up.
Wow.
And just absolutely loving driving this car because it relaxes me. It's a Bentley through and through. The cabin is of extraordinary quality. The seats are superb. Everywhere we go, we get admiring glances. And I have to say, I feel totally fortunate. And a lovely British family saw us in Santa Barbara a couple of days ago. And this woman said, "I do love your car." And I said, "I have to tell you, it isn't my car." And she gave me that, I already knew that love nod, which I thought was quite good, actually.
Do you know why? I've been thinking about the 4-seat convertible. Sort of feels like forever. I know some of you laugh at this, but 26 years ago, I had a CLK 430, which isn't quite that stature, but it's still 4-seatish. I know, okay, you can have one back for that. But it had a bit of a 4-seat convertible vibe. And I was thinking about this, what is it about the 4-seat that just so captivates you? I think because the roof is so big and the transformation from sort of a saloon coupe to open top car is so massive, it's just a wonderful feeling of two cars in one, and it's so open air because it was closed. Now it's got open air for 4 people. And I just think that is so, at any speed, in fact, probably at a lower speed, it's Maserati Gran Turismo, Gran Cabrio thing, was from the word go, not very great to drive, but just when the roof opened, it's the moment of the roof opening. It's that moment of chrysalis. So I totally with it. And while you've been doing that, and we've been following you on Instagram, being very, very sort of, lovely watching you. Has Frank Valliser been driving our Continental convertible around Europe?
Does look remarkably similar to the one that we spoke. So Frank's going around Europe in it, and we're up here doing it. I mean, another one turned up at the hotel yesterday. There isn't really a rival car for that at the moment. Mercedes doesn't make one. Rolls-Royce, I think, doesn't make. They're not making that anymore, are they? So
no, they're not.
No, it was. It's an interesting genre of car, but I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I have to say, my connection to the word 100. I'd like to have got a photograph of me maybe doing 100 on the freeway, but that would of course been illegal. I'd have had the car taken off me straight away, and I didn't want to do it. So I think on that note, we're going to move on to the next subject, which is, wait there. I've got a lovely photograph of me and my glasses there, which seems rather fetching. Here we go. The 2-car garage is a treat this week, lads. It's really, really long. Second one, driving just for selfish pleasure is all part of our secret sauce for the love of driving. You need to do a 100-mile loop from your house, where you're going, and what car you're driving, and what music. I like these ones. So you've got a 100-mile loop from where you live, your house, what car are you driving, and what music. So let's go first to manage.
I tried to measure this using both Google Maps and a piece of cotton wool on a map. Cooper, what are you doing?
You're getting your map out. This 100-mile
just getting it ready for when I'm asked. Sorry, I'll put it down.
Love that. Yes. So I'm afraid this is slightly more than 100 miles round trip, but the trip that I'd absolutely love to do, I'll do it in the autumn. I will have to borrow this car. I'd like to borrow someone's R107 300 SL, 280 SL, whatever it is, as long as it has 4 seats, or buy one, as long as it has 4 seats. And I'd like to drive from lovely central London to Pembroke College, Oxford, to take my boy out for lunch. That's what I'd like to do. And I'd like to do it in this R107 because you can put a dog bed in the back seats, and I can take Tuco. And the idea would be just to literally, the thing about it is the A40 going out of London is restricted to 40 and 50 miles an hour. The only time you can go faster than that is when you actually hit the M40, and I just stay in the slow lane so that Tuco's mane doesn't get blown off. But I just love the idea of doing a very leisurely, gentle drive into Oxford. And, they probably won't thank me for saying this, but you can actually park there. I mean, it's unbelievably straightforward to park there. So you'd go in, you'd park your car, you'd take your dog and your son out for a lovely lunch and a bit of a walk. You get back and you come home. And the piece of music I'd listen to, it's a Spotify playlist that anyone can listen to, and it's Bossa Nova Chill. So you'd be listening to lovely Brazilian Bossa Nova on your way there, on your way back. I can't imagine feeling cooler and more relaxed when I get back than with that.
I wouldn't want to contribute towards loopholes being found out, but like you, given that Oxford is the most anti-car town on the planet, it's surprisingly easy to circumnavigate their anti-car restrictions and find a parking space. You basically just drive in and park.
What you do, but don't tell anyone.
And it's hard to think of there are very few cities in the UK whose link and connection with the car is as strong as Oxford's. It's still the home of the BMW Mini Factory. I mean, Oxford used to be car manufacturing and great cars. It was part of the British car industry, Cowley. So, yeah. Tisk.
A bit of a technical on my glasses here. I'll send them back. I'll let you tell a secret, by the way. I was sitting on a beach 3 days ago. Luckily, my other half is not in the room. She was earlier. And I thought, I found on Amazon a set of glasses that say 100. I thought this was so clever, so I ordered them to arrive. At my hotel while we're here up in Carmel. What I didn't realise was, by ordering them on my UK account, there was a day delay, so they're going to arrive tomorrow. What I also didn't realise is I've ordered 30 pairs by mistake. So if anyone wants 30 pairs of glasses that say 100 on and they're in the Carmel area, give me a shout. Let's go to... that was a very good answer, Manish. Let's go to Neil Clifford.
Right, so I do this probably once or twice a month. This is the route. So we go from our house, we go the back road that no one else uses apart from obviously the Tour de France every other weekend, to Tring. And then from Tring, we head over the HS2 bloody palaver to Wendover. We turn left at Wendover and just do a little loop up to Chequers. Because Chequers is such a lovely looking, beautiful house. They've put a lot more security up there recently. I think maybe there's, they've had warnings of something or other. We then go from Chequers to Princess Risborough, the home of our good friend Jay. Maybe stop and have a little chat with him. And then there's a wonderful little village called Brill.
Oh, Brill Hill.
On the way to Brill. It's
Brill
lovely.
Hill. It's lovely.
It's one of those typically gorgeous little sort of English villages, all the thatched cottages, all loveliness. Then I go to a little coffee shop called Norse in a little village called Haddingham. It's very, very nice. Great coffee, great pastries. My friend Luke, tall Luke, lives round the corner. We stop and see him. And then we go to Tame. It's about another 20 miles round the houses to Tame, where they have an amazing kebab van. It's called something like Atalaya Kebabs. Like, I know there's about 20 companies that say this, but Kebab of the Year 2024, 2025, 2026. I mean, I'm sure there's like numerous categories of kebab winning championships. But anyway, you can get a double doner and you get a side box of just the chicken, so you haven't got too much carbs, mainly protein, garlic sauce, chili sauce. It's bloody brilliant. The best 15 quid dinner you can get in Buckinghamshire, basically. And then, so you sit in we'll be in the Mercedes Cabriolet. Mm-hmm. We get a little box of meat for Dino. So he's like super happy, knows he's going for kebab. And then we just take a slow drive back the long way, back via Great Missenden, past Chequers again, It's actually about 85 miles. You can do a whole afternoon, couple of coffees, kebab, lovely little drive. REM, Out of Time album, just very uplifting. I love Michael Stipe like he's a family member. And home. And if you break down, you now ring the Britannia breakdown service. So yeah, that's what I would do. Absolutely bloody.
What car are you in?
I'm in the 1961 Mercedes 220.
It's 220.
Yeah, where the guy ticked all the wrong. Yeah, I think a Cooper's 109 or could be 111. Silver, blue leather, blue roof, bit gutless. Got to change down about 1 million times if you've got to go up a hill, but who cares? Like a pagoda, they're all gutless as well.
Chris Cooper, now is the time to present
Here
your map.
we go. Here comes the map.
I've had so much fun amongst my shitty day in the afternoon, mainly because when I was on a shitty day, my lovely wife Lynn went to the post office in St. Mawes and bought me 4 maps. 4 maps is brilliant because it's 4 times as good as 1 map. But I've got. Can you see this? So this is really helpful for people listening on Spotify who get really cross with me when I hold pictures up. So I'm holding up. Actually, the way we used to do it, I folded up a big piece of paper map into just the bit you need to see, which is sort of just about manageable. You can see both my hands. They are both my hands. My hands aren't somewhere else. Those are, in fact, my hands connected to my arms and my shoulders.
Mr. Cooper, while you were doing that, you know, there are people paid £100,000 a day to provide those special effects in Hollywood. I mean, those were sound
They don't need
effects.
that. They need me. They need me. So this map shows.
I'm very creating it for authenticity. Go on.
Very good.
This map shows St. Mawes is down here, down there, and we're going to get. I'll tell you where. It's be quite hard to show you on here. We're basically going to go the whole of Cornwall down to the Lizard, down towards Penzance, up towards St. Ives. I'm going to talk you through it because driving pleasure, this 100 miles, I wanted not just lots of single track roads in Cornwall where you're doing first and second gear, lots of reversing. I wanted some coastal views, some nice, faster country roads in Cornwall, south and north, some coastal views and scenery, and food. Food is really, really important. So you start in St. Mawes where there's lots of lovely food. The St. Mawes Hotel does a barbecue on Thursday nights in the summer. You'd start there probably in the summer. They start the barbecue about 5 o'clock. I reckon you could do the whole of this drive and get back just about at dusk. That's the plan. So you start here, get a sausage and a scallop from the barbecue out here on the front by St. Mawes Hotel. Then you drive to Tregony just in time before the butcher closes there. There's a really good butcher in Tregony. They do fantastic sausages. Get some really nice sausages there. And then I think you'd probably wind around Truro and drive round Truro and the edges of Falmouth to Helston. Helston is near where the RAF Royal Naval Air Station base is. And you can drive from Helston round towards Helford. There's some lovely country roads there. Helford Village has got a brilliant pub in it, Shipwright's Arms. Get a quick half a shandy there. And then I think you drive all the way down to the Lizard. The Lizard is great because it's the southernmost part of the United Kingdom mainland. I think United Kingdom total. Fantastic views. You see the sun setting off to sort of the northwest of you. Lovely view from there. Great roads, quite flat. The Lizard Peninsula has got some quite open roads and quite good views. Not too fast, but won't get stuck behind too many things. Not too many single track roads. And I think from the Lizard, you then drive sort of northwest past Mullion. Anyway, have any guys heard of Kynance Cove?
I played at the golf course there. I played at the golf course there.
Kynance Cove is, I think, one of the most Instagrammed bays in Cornwall because it's quite high on the side. So when you look down on a sunny day, all you can see is the sand in the bottom of the sea and this turquoise. It's beautiful. Drive from Kynance to Porthleven. Porthleven is that village you often see in the winter when picture editors want to show you how violent the storm is in Cornwall. there's quite a foreboding church tower right on the front of Porthleven, and the sea's usually breaking over it at Porthleven.
Nice.
But Porthleven itself, beautiful little fishing village. The food and stuff around the harbour, it's just wonderful. So you do Porthleven, probably near last orders for that. Then I think you drive back towards Constantine, near where the seal sanctuary is. Somehow miraculously, because my instructions aren't very good at this point, you'd end up back across the other side of Falmouth, driving down towards the King Harry Ferry. And you go across King Harry Ferry, go to the Roseland Inn at Filly, near where the Filly Fair is, twice a year in the summer, which is brilliant. And then get off out of there, back down into St. Mawes, 100 miles, probably 5 hours it might take you, 4 or 5 hours it might take you. Mixture of country roads, little coastal things, lots of scenery, some atmosphere. What would be the car? It's really boring, but if that isn't designed for a Caterham 7, I don't know what is. It's the right size. It's the right size. I'd probably have a K series. Probably doesn't need more than a 1600, the original Superlight, 136 horsepower.
How many gears?
Can only have that little snickety Caterham 6-speed gearbox that Caterham bizarrely and madly designed and engineered themselves. It's just bam, bam, bam. And honestly, that's all the music you'd need. So forget the radio. Ooh. Say again?
On your own? No.
Well, it's a really good question. That's a very good question. I thought about that because I know this was your suggestion, Neil, this one. And I thought it was really good. And it was if it's for selfish pleasure.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
If it's for selfish pleasure and once in a while, our love for our passion, it's okay to do it by yourself. That's the car that is.
Yeah,
So I think it'd be by yourself, 1600 K-Series Superlight, about 100 miles, and you come home with a full tummy and a full heart. That's what I do.
Yeah, lovely.
Right. I quite like answering these by using them to escape normality and reality. So I want to choose a car I've never driven. There aren't many, it seems, but actually the more I look, there are lots. I often do that thing where I go down the alphabetical lists on Car and Classic, and there's about 100 car names I've never heard of. You just go, well, what's that? And then you click on it, and it was made by a bloke in his shed in Bradford in 1948. But it's a car maker suddenly. So, but there's one trip for me. I live in Briss, and we're very close to Wales. And I do this more on my motorcycle than I do in the car. And I film there a lot, but I go to Crickhowell. I love Crickhowell. And that's where that Moorland Road is, behind Crickhowell, where we do lots of filming for all the car magazines and Top Gear. It's all filmed on that moor. It's not a very long stretch of road, but I think I know every millimetre of tarmac on it because I've been driving up and down it since 1998. And I go there normally on the motorcycle because I dropped my pickle. No, there's that Arlo Guthrie song, which is a great song. That's not my music. But this time I'm going to go in a Lamborghini Yalpa, because I've never driven a Yalpa. Ooh. And I think it's one of the great car names, because in Bristol, it would be a Jalpa, wouldn't it? You got one of them Jalpers? But actually, as we know, it's a silent J, it's a Yalpa. And if you're in a Yalpa, what is that car's most famous film appearance?
I thought it was in the Colbys, which was the TV series. It was Jeff Colby's car. It was that or a Silhouette. I can't remember which.
He had a Silhouette, I think, but it's Rocky IV. He was in when Rocky has to deal with the death of Apollo Creed. He gets into the Yalpa and fires off into the tunnel wearing leather driving gloves, so he can snick through the gate better. So that song, "There's No Easy Way Out," which is one of the great American sort of 80s rock songs. So I would be driving in a Lamborghini Yalpa. It's 48 miles to Crickhowell. I know that because I see it so many times. That gives me a bit of leeway to wiggle around on the moor and come back again. And I'd be listening to the soundtrack to Rocky IV, obviously, because I'm in a Yalpa pretending my name is Rocky Balboa. Adrian!
What a movie.
Say yo first. Yo, Adrian.
Look at that tracksuit with the Italian colours. Look at that.
That is mega.
Do you remember Rocky 2 right at the beginning? I do. When he finally gets he gets his advertising contract. Do you remember? And he stands there and he goes, "And you won't wear this because it smells manly." And the guy goes, "What are you saying?" He goes, "It smells manly." And he goes, "No, it smells manly." "Yeah, but it says it smells manly on the board." Like that is so brilliant. You can't read. Talk about lovely.
It's a great film franchise. Also,
Great film franchise.
I'm technical again. Maserati Quattroporte appears in not one but two Rocky films. Let's move on to the next one on our agenda. Hold on, I'm going to bring this up in my photographs. Out of the last 100 episodes, which was the hardest question for you to answer? And this is a celebrity question from our eternal supporter and our great friend, Robert Denton. So, Robert, thank you for posing this. Out of our last 100 episodes, what was the hardest question to answer? Let's go to, blimey, there's been quite a few for me. Let's go to Manish.
So I went a little Chris Cooper on this and decided that I wouldn't actually answer the question. But what I would do is I would do my highlights, because what I do is I type these up onto my computer and I keep all of the agendas in a file called NewPod. And so Ep 1, 26th of July, I think 2024. The question was, if you were Max Verstappen's race engineer, how would you deal with his style of radio comms? And I wrote one down here. And I understand the medical delegate needs to have a look at you, Max, when you get out. And then Max's response, maybe you can send the medical delegate to the stewards so you can have a look to see that they're okay. I'm absolutely fine. Max Verstappen. How about this? Episode 7, this is the question that was asked. Ratan Tata, savior of Land Rover or killer of Jaguar?
Oh,
I mean, that was a big topic.
That's a good question.
Episode 15, you're allowed to pass legislation that allows one major change to petrol forecourts in the UK. What do you choose? Do you remember that one? So that was a great question.
Yeah.
Episode 34, you have to make a pickup truck out of an expensive car because you've gone mad. Which do you choose to butcher? But actually, no one criticized me for this, which was a Ferrari 412 pickup. Remember that?
Yeah. Didn't someone choose a Cullinan?
I chose a Cullinan. Yeah, I chose a Cullinan.
You did. And the last two were episode 50, F1 half-term report, August 2025. So exactly a year ago. And it was Papaya rules and the turnaround of McLaren.
Yeah.
Max is staying at RBR, but Horner has gone. Ferrari have misfired and both drivers have moved on from 2025. Mercedes have made a mistake with Antonelli in the short run, but are making very cocky noises about 2026. You heard it first on this podcast. Yeah. And Ep 72, it's the last one. I love this one. It was cars. Never put a pineapple on a pizza. To which my response was, Rupa Pizza in Norwich, who have every topping, will give you a slice of pineapple if you want one, but they charge you £100 for it. Which I still think is genius.
Very good.
Have a pizza with pineapple.
That was a rather nice journey back in time, Manish. And it reminds you that maybe they need to work a bit harder on the questions. We thought a bit more deeply about the subject, didn't we? We've become a little bit complacent, I think. Now we just write, what'd you do this week? So let's go to Chris Cooper.
I don't have that file, either your file or my version of it. I'd probably got them, because I always put the questions into an email to myself, and I could probably sort by, on subject matter and go from episode 100 back down to one, because I don't ever delete emails, because I'm just a bit of a hoarder, stuff like that. And is it nostalgia?
Can I say something that will trigger Chris Cooper, and will explain certain things about why people find it frustrating? My email self-destructs after 3 months, so I don't have any emails beyond 3 months.
I'm amazed it takes that long.
That's like burning letters. You can't.
I'm amazed it takes that long.
I have no records of anything. When I was going through certain legal process recently, people would say, "Can you show us this?" I go, "No." And I had to get my internet provider to prove that I've always had this facility, which they described as being.
You
They
didn't
said
need.
they described it as being unusual.
Yeah, you didn't need to get your internet provider. You could just ask us. We could have told them.
Yeah. Right.
So listening to Manish, some great questions in there. I thought about this quite a lot. I thought it was a really interesting question, Robert. Really, really interesting question. And actually, if I'm honest, this is the hardest question I've had to answer.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's hard, I think, is because the questions if I'm honest, the questions that I found it hard to answer have probably been about getting comfortable revealing my nerdiness and sort of my, and I'm sort of somebody I read, Chris always says just never read the comments, but of course we all bloody do. And somebody in the comments last week said, I wonder on episode 100 whether Chris Cooper will wear something other than a blue shirt. And I'd like to point out that this shirt is predominantly white. I tested that with Lynn beforehand, and she said, "Don't be so silly. It's a blue shirt with some white bits on it." And it's sort of that sort of nerdiness and that creature of habit. If you've got a blue shirt or 3 blue shirts in your wardrobe, you've got enough shirts. What are there other shirts? And cars have been a bit like that. And there's a question coming up later where it's a good example of the fork in the road, where my natural tendency to be a bit nerdy and a bit sort of, sorting out the peas into a neat little group on the side of your plate, whatever that behavioral trait is. So the questions I found the hardest were, I know what I want to say. Actually, I'm going to sound really nerdy and uncool, and maybe that's not what people want to hear. So what I've learned out of the last 100 episodes, apart from, Robert, this is the hardest question I've had to answer because it sort of forced me to concede what I think everyone's probably worked out. I love nerdy stuff. I'm a creature of habit. And sometimes I just want to answer the question, it's a Ford Escort, rather than something else. But because actually that's what my tummy and my heart, and probably the imagination, we talked about this last week, the imagination and the love of the car when we were younger, and you had no yardstick, certainly in my family, to measure it to. And the day Dad brought back a car brochure that said, my new company car is a 4 Granada gear. And I thought, my dad can do anything. There can't be a more successful dad in the world than my dad. He's got a 4 Granada gear. So I sort of come from that, really. And Neil talks about this more eloquently than I do, but there's something about where you come from that, motivates you and stuff like that. So, yeah, I found it really hard at times to talk about the things that make me nerdy that I really love about cars. When I meet people at the events we do and just on the street, or the true thing I went to last week, I ended up talking to somebody about why is it that the Triumph V8 engine in the Stag now works when it didn't before? I love that stuff. And before I might have found that hard to talk about. No, I don't. I think I love it. So that's kind of my answer to the question.
This is the weird. This Car Weirdos Safe Space is what it should be called. Really, as a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to break the tradition. I'm going to go next. So I'm going to answer this slightly differently. I've been saving something up for this, and I've been hoping there was a space I could squeeze it in. So, about a few months ago, McLaren launched the W1, and I went on the launch event, and I spent dinner on the night we shot with Nick Collins, who's the boss of McLaren Automotive. And just to show you how so many car companies are actually in really good hands because they're run by fellow enthusiasts. We weren't talking about hypercars much. We were talking about old car magazines and talking about great stories and suddenly great engineers, which is what you do, isn't it? And I realised I had on my phone an interview in Car Magazine from, I think, November or December 1987, where Phil Llewellyn had interviewed Keith Duckworth, obviously the man that was part of the founders of Cosworth, and the man that effectively was responsible for arguably the greatest racing engine ever, the DFV, but so many other things as well. I mean, BDAs, all the engines in the fast forwards that you loved, and all the racing engines that you saw in Formula One. Anyhow, he said, I think I've got to remember this right. He said, I think my dad was at college with Keith Duckworth. And I went, I'm sorry. So
what?
He then phoned his dad, and his dad, who is 91, sent him this message. City and Guilds College was the practical side of Imperial, and one of the features was a 2-hour lunchtime on Tuesday and Thursday. The intention was to broaden student interest in other things besides everyday studies. Keith Duckworth was studying mechanics and very soon started a motoring club. This involved general discussions, but also included occasional talks by personalities of the day, one of whom was Colin Chapman.
No.
I attended this talk, and one thing has stuck in my mind ever since. Colin described how they used metal polish in the rear axle differential and ran the car, an Austin 7, until the gears had been used long enough to grind off any imperfections in the original machining. However, their recording, pencil and paper, was below par because one day they found a fault as a result of not changing back to oil. Things obviously improved after that because Colin went on to greater things with Lotus, and also Keith did pretty well as well. Never did I think that this memory would still be there 69 years later. I remember him by name, but not by appearance.
Wow.
Wow.
Isn't that good?
Wow.
So, if I've got a memory of this podcast and the difficult questions, I sort of echo Chris. I've had to do a bit more self-reflection, probably because I've been doing this a bit longer than these guys. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and for me, it's these morsels that they creep out of unexpected places. You'll be at a fuel station, and someone will come over and tell you something that you wish you knew. That's the one I get. I always get someone that comes up to me and tells me. Like there's an amazing guy that came up to me at the Jaguar day that said, "You got a load of scuttle shake in your Z3M." I said, "It's not a scuttle shake. It actually bends in half around a corner." And I said, I don't know what to do about it. He said, "Well, do you know what? I'm an engineer. I actually fitted scaffolding underneath the floor pan of mine. If I've probably bored you with this before, I actually fitted scaffolding. It was quite a new car, and I braced the floor pan." And it was he should be a comedy actor because his timing was perfect. And I paused and I said, "That must have fixed it." And he looked at me and went, "No." And he walked off. I've no idea who he was, but I just honestly, the timing of LeBlanc. I said, "That must have fixed it," and he went, "No." Yeah, I think the most difficult question, obviously, was what if you were a car, what would you be? Well, we all tried to answer that one, and I remember tying myself in knots because that's how do you come across as modest and confident? How do you come across as not attention seeking but kind? It's a really difficult one because actually this is a bit like Desert Island Disc, this podcast. There's a huge element of honesty, but there's also a presentation side. So you want to come across as the nice guy, but you don't come across as too nice because that's saccharine. So on that note, I'm going to hospital pass straight to Neil Clifford. Away you go.
When I started this podcast, I was really worried because I sort of knew Chris but didn't because, we'd bump into each other at Dick Lovett and it'd be, I was with Matthew or he was with Matthew and he would, look the other way because he doesn't really like people and I'd sort of say hello but not hello and it's like, who's that wanker? I don't really want to talk to him, sort of thing. So I sort of knew him but didn't. And then I got lucky because I bought quite a few little cars, good and bad, off a certain website, and I was asked to go for a dinner, and in central London, and I was lucky enough, on top of that luckiness, to sit next to Chris, and I could tell that he was sort of sussing me out a little bit and having a chat. And within half an hour, 40 minutes, I think did we have Simon Kidson come along to that dinner and spoke about buying that 125 million Mercedes thing and all that. It was a cool dinner. And he said, what do you think about starting a podcast? I'm thinking about starting a podcast. What do you know? There might only be one, but do you fancy maybe just coming on for 10 minutes sort of thing? And at the time, that was just post-COVID, really. And COVID was a very difficult time professionally for me because the company was sort of bust and it was all a nightmare for 18 months. And I remember saying to my wife, you know what, I love my job. I love my job. I've always loved my job. But I'm going to try and have a bit more fun as well. And at the time, if COVID wouldn't have happened, I would have, if Chris said that no, I can't sort of mix, I'm a bit worried about whether, people that work for me would see me on a podcast and I'd come across with a bit of a tit, and I was a bit worried that mixing, I was happy in my own little world of knowing a few people in cars, but sort of being a bit inconspicuous or not known, and I like that. But then along come this podcast, and I'm like, oh crikey, sometimes I'm at work and our head of logistics comes, oh, great podcast last week, Neil. And that gives me a bit of it's erotic horror, really, because I love talking about it, but I'm like, oh my God, that's a bit embarrassing because, I'm supposed to be this sort of serious CEO-y person, but I am and I'm not. And anyway, my conclusion, the answer to this was, I always don't mind the silly questions of what's your favorite steering wheel or what's your favorite horn button, or, because that's easy. And we've all got this sort of mad obsession of knowledge of cars forevermore. And we were worried actually after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, we'd run out of things to talk about. The list we've got now is longer than when we started. It's quite amazing.
Completely true.
It's quite amazing. But the questions I always worried about and the questions I struggled with to answer was when they get serious, because then I've got to pretend to be serious, or I've got to pretend to be like, have a business brain and all of that. And I was always worried then because people would go, oh, look at him, look, he might know about shoes and handbags. Now he thinks he knows about cars, silly idiot. I was always worried about, and the question was, episode 50, it was halfway through our little journey to 100, and it was, is the European car industry doomed?
Oh.
And it was stated, wasn't it, by a man who I think is CEO of Mercedes, was at AMG. He's got a name like in Scrabble.
Ola Kalanius.
Yeah.
That's it.
Ola Kalanius.
Yeah, like a lot of points in Scrabble. And I thought, oh my God, this gets a bit serious now, because now I've got to be serious. I've got to put my serious hat on. And that was the question I really struggled to answer, because basically I didn't feel as though I could be myself at that point, because I can talk about my favorite Bentley or my favorite whatever, but when it comes to, is the European car industry buggered, I wanted to tell the truth, and I couldn't really, because then, or I struggled to articulate it, because it was a very serious matter. And it probably sort of is. You read the FT this weekend, all of lot of European car companies are giving over production space to Chinese brands to keep the employees in jobs.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem, and it's a bit self-inflicted by the European Union. And it's desperately sad and serious. And I don't really like talking about those things, because I'd rather talk about my favorite steering wheel.
I think it's a fair point that actually, if you begin a podcast that's based on levity, when you try and tackle serious subjects, it's quite difficult. It's like if you're watching the two Ronnies on a Sunday night, and suddenly they start talking about something serious. You'd be 4 minutes in thinking, sorry, is this a sketch, or is it? Yeah, I get it. Well, all I can say is all of you have handled those difficulties with aplomb, as they would say. Aplomb, there's a word that you cannot use in spoken English. It only works written down, because you only see the B when it's written down, don't you? Aplomb.
I was just going to say that there's a genre of questions that normally Chris starts with the words, now I'm just going to ask Manish this question without being arch, but which car have you owned that? ...
Yeah.
But this is, hold on, let the elephant in the room is that, Manish, your car ownership experience, probably wouldn't qualify you to be on any podcast in the world about cars. But that's why we love you so much, because you bring the voice of the person that's just going into it now, a bit too late in life. You know, what we've done is we've converted you into being an addict. We're the ones that have been lurking in the school playground, offering you fags, and now you're on 20 a day. In fact, you've got a worse habit than us. You have moved from not being addicts to having a full heroin addiction and fentanyl at the same time, because you got 4, 5, 6. So frankly, you're the ultimate addict.
Yeah. But I'm loving it. I mean, the worst thing is, like, what a sad excuse for an addiction. I got into that car. She smelled, I can't explain, right? So beautiful. Just put her into gear, drove away, country roads in Kent. And I was thinking, what have I been doing with my life? What have I been doing with my life?
Don't have a vasectomy, buy a Ferrari.
Exactly. Right, let's move this on.
Just before we move off the 100th thing and our reflections on 100 episodes, I thought, because it's a birthday, I'd get you each a birthday present. Ooh. And when I was at the Truro Classic Car thing the other weekend, there were stalls selling lots of stuff, not very many pounds at all. So I thought, for not many pounds, and you made a reference a moment ago to the written word, Chris. So I bought each of you a book that sort of sums up something that we've talked about you on this podcast. So this one caught my eye because it's written by Art Marcus. Remember him, Chris? All of you remember Art Marcus? Yeah. It was £4. I haven't gone mad.
Oh,
and Neil, I bought that for you. Neil.
That's me.
Track day driver's guide.
Look at that happy face. Isn't that a happy face?
That is Neil.
It's such a lovely car as well.
It's such a lovely car. Yeah. I know you've got a lovely purple one. I mean, and meanwhile, you've got an Elise as well, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Manish.
Right. So let me make sure he has no more wine. No more wine for Cooper, please.
Manish, I haven't left you out. This is written by, I know you like him, Doug Nye. Doug Nye?
Yeah. Oh, I love Doug Nye. Love Doug Nye.
This has been loved, this book, because it's sort of the jacket. Remember when books had jackets? This has got well thumbed. And I found this for £6.
Oh. Look at that. Loudon, a 312T. Love it.
It's got beautiful pictures in it.
Oh.
Great racing drivers. And I thought, Neil, because Manish rather, so you should write that book. You could write books like that because you know all about. And what do you buy the man who's had everything and driven more cars, blah blah blah? So, I mean, it's always going to be disappointing. So, I bought him a book which has got that picture on the back cover.
Oh, that's the car.
Who's this?
Yeah, it is the car one. I've got that.
Best of cars, 60s and 70s. So there was a lady on the stand that I bought this for, and I could tell she was just dying to say something to me about why I picked up a book that had that on the back and that on the front cover. Maybe she thought I was a gentleman of a certain age.
Sorry, someone just came to the hotel door. I missed what the front cover was.
Car.
That's for you. I bought this book for you. So
Best of car.
Say, happy birthday to us.
Oh,
Thank you. I'll do one thing very quickly. I've done something quite similar. I was wondering. I'm doing quite a bit of walking at the moment, and there was a little flea market near where I was staying last week, and they were selling adverts from magazines, and of course they had a car section. And I've bought each of you one, but I don't know who. My idea was I don't know which one to give to which person. Maybe you can help me. The first one is a Rolls-Royce advert from a black and white publication, and it simply says, "Should every corporation buy its president a Rolls-Royce?" What a brilliant advert!
That's a brilliant advert.
Neil Clifford.
I think that's Neil.
It should be
Neil.
This is from the early 1960s, and wait for it, a Phantom 7 limousine is $25,000 then.
No.
When was that?
Now, I think it's from the mid-60s. This is extraordinary, this one, right? So this is from 1965, from Look magazine. This is a Volkswagen advert entitled, "Does the stick shift scare your wife?"
Neil Clifford. Neil Clifford.
I think we're all for Neil.
Neil Clifford. 100%.
Okay, so that
Another
one's,
Neil Clifford.
that one's quite full on. Now, this is my favourite. This is from 1981 because it's got a big story about posthumously about John Lennon on the back there. But this is, wait for this. This is absolutely perfect peak American advertising. Look at that. The Chevrolet Camaro, full stop.
Hugger.
The hugger. I think that's Manish. I think Manish is a bit of a hugger.
No,
Manish
I
is
think
a
Chris
very
Harris.
good hug. Manish, you're a very good hugger. You should have that one.
I do like hugging. I do.
And I've also got an extra one here, which I think this could be Mr. Cooper. This is the Camaro Z28.
Z2B.
Disco. Here we go. Disco. It was a pimple on the face of music history. And while polyester suits had their 15 minutes of fame, rock and roll is here to stay. So is the Chevy Camaro with 8 cylinders and 285 horses. It's the only way to boogie.
That's my tribe.
So there you go. Right, we're going to move this on quickly. Here we go. All right, so I'll get those mounted up. What is the car equivalent of the B-52 bomber, a military plane that will now be serviced for 100 years? Got 10 minutes to do this before we have. We might have a little guest arriving. Okay. So let's go first to Neil Clifford.
Well, I think. By the way, we should recognise the B-52. It has just been approved to run till 2050, and it went in service in 1950, 4950. 100 years, an aeroplane in service. I mean, incredible. I know it's Trigger's broom. I know everything is currently
not quite. It's actually more impressive than that.
No, it is, but they're changing the engine.
Yeah, but the airframe is the same.
Yeah, it is. Amazing. I mean, look, quick answer. There's only one, in my view. It's the 911. In 2064, there will be a Porsche 911 on for sale.
Yeah.
And there's only one answer, really.
There are two answers.
Yeah, I read that slightly differently, actually. So.
Okay. Manish, you can go. No, let's go. Manish, go. Chris Cooper's shot his bolt early there. So let's go to Manish first.
I read the question as something that exists now that through repeated servicing, so you don't get to rebuild it, you don't get to reimagine it, you just have to rebuild it, reservice it, just keep it maintained, and it'll be there for 100 years. And I think it would be the Defender Series 2 from 1959. Mm-hmm. And I think that car, with lots of love and care, and I say the Series 2 because it just had a slightly bigger engine, it was a little bit more sorted. I think we'll see Defender 2s in 2069.
I think that's true.
I think you're right. Chris Cooper, we know what you're going to say.
Well, we can edit that bit out. I mean, the obvious answer is 911, and it is definitely probably the answer. The B-52 is extraordinary. The B-52H, which is the current variant, they built 800 of them, I think. First flew in 1950, entered service sometime in the 50s. The
55.
Current 55. The B-52H is obviously A to H. They really did go through all the letters. Most of the H's, I think they stopped making the B-52 in 1962, 63, maybe 61, early 60s.
Yeah.
So they stopped. Production lines stopped. They didn't make it anymore. They made 800s, now 10% left. There's a few in reserve and stuff, blah, 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 blah. Amazingly, we got, boys and I, some of their mates, when we went to RIAT at Fairford, the Royal International Air Institute at Fairford in 2025, there was a B-52 there. And it had the bomb bay doors open. So you got to stand up inside the bomb bay doors. I mean, oddly, the bone, the B1, the Rockwell B1, the swing wing thing, which has been at Fairford because of the recent unpleasantness, which is why there wasn't an air tattoo this year, even though it looks much smaller and more slender and sort of fighterish, it's got a bigger bomb payload than the B-52. But the B-52 can fly longer, blah, blah, blah. It's an extraordinary thing. The B-52J is the one that Neil's referred to, which will have excellently some Rolls-Royce engines. First time Rolls-Royce engines fit B-52. And that will go on to the 2050s or 60s. So it will have been, airframes will be in the air over 100 years after they were first manufactured. Amazing.
Amazing.
I think the 911 definitely qualifies. I have a small vote for the Mark II Ford Escort. Yeah. I think the Ford Escort will have a home and love, and people prepared to do things with it and restore them and put new brake lines in them and restore the suspension bushes and all this kind of stuff 30 years from now. That's what I think will be the B-52.
This has already happened, really. Anyone that's been to Cuba will realise that there was a...
Oh, very good.
Yeah. Our guest is coming in now. Housekeeping. Right, here we go. We're just finishing a question. Come and sit here. This is my friend, Philip Kadori. Now, you might not know who Philip is, but Philip is the man that commissioned the 911K, which is the gold 911 that myself and Richard Tuttle behaved poorly in. So you're going to let me finish this question, then you're on board, all right?
Done.
Okay. So I think this has already happened. We're talking about what car will be maintained and still be on the road in 50 years' time because people have renewed them. So we've had the 911, and it's the B-52 bomber of cars. The 911 Mark II Escort. What did you say, Manish? Have you gone yet?
I went for a Defender Series 2.
Defender. I think this has already happened. If you've been to Cuba, there was a point in time, obviously, when certain political organisations took over where everything stopped. So you go there, and there are 1950s American cars. Thank you. That are driving round, and so I think the version of that is actually in the Middle East. Is the Land Cruiser? All these new Land Cruisers came out, but there's a demand for a Land Cruiser that's got a manual gearbox, a simple diesel engine, and live axles, and so that's what you get.
Obvious, really. Yeah.
Now look, I'm over here to do the Quail Rally with this man this week, so I'm not plugging that too heavily. But we're going to attempt to answer the most complicated two-car garage. Have you done it or not?
I have.
He's done it. I sent it to him, and all I got was the word Jesus as a response.
Yeah,
because it was absolutely enormous.
I've gone over budget, but I've done it.
Have you?
What?
There's a man there pointing at Cooper. He's the man that always goes
Have
over
you
budget.
gone full Cooper? It's the first time you've been on the show.
Well, I'm gonna read this out now because it's bloody enormous. Here we go. Okay, you've got two separate tasks with this week's 100th two-car garage challenge. Firstly, you've got to buy a car that does everything, ticks every box: practicality, reliability, driving enjoyment, and also cool and rare enough to impress your people at Bicester Scramble. If you know, you know. You've got to drive 100,000 miles in 5 years with nothing but servicing to do. Nothing can go wrong. The car is bulletproof. Whilst being over 3 years old and not under warranty, you need enough space for you and your partner and your 3 children. You don't have a dog yet. Budget's £100,000. I have never seen a more accurately stipulated two-car garage than that. That is, and I don't like to swear, but that is fucking difficult. Okay. Then in parallel, you need to make £100,000 profit in the same 5 years by buying and selling a car. You've got £100,000 to spend, and in 5 years' time, there's got to be a good chance that the car will be worth £200,000, therefore generating £100,000 profit. The only problem is it's got to be a convertible, and it's not allowed to be Italian. So, I mean, what sadists set these? Was this you, Neil?
What's wrong with you?
It was me. I wrote it.
Had someone just kicked you right in the knackers before you'd recorded them?
An Italian man.
Well, did you reverse engineer 2 cars you've got?
Exactly.
Yeah. I knew Philip was joining, and I wanted to set him the little challenge.
Okay, I want Philip to go first here. So we're sitting currently in Carmel. A car week's about to begin. I've never been to this car week before. I've heard all sorts of things about it, most of which are good, some of which aren't so good. But I always, gatherings of cars are great. People struggle with them a bit, frankly, but I'm here with an open mind. Philip, what's your two-car garage? Go on.
Well, I'm really excited to be your car week Sherpa, and also thank you for bringing me along on this. This was immensely difficult, and I'm tried to stay in budget. The first car I went with, which I now see has sold, and I found another one that's slightly more expensive, but I've actually done this exact thing with the hardtop version of this car, and since you stipulated convertible, I thought this could be a winner. Yeah. So, SLS convertible.
Yes.
This one just sold at £120,000. There's some available for just under 140, 2 of them in the UK that I saw. And They are brilliant,
They are.
brilliant cars to drive, and has so much more than anyone ever gives it credit for. The engine is unbeatable, and I think the convertible has a chance to definitely do exactly as Neil wants it to.
I totally agree
Okay, I
with you.
like that.
I wish it was available
What
for
about
100
your?
grand.
What about your
So
everyday?
I don't want to ruin all of the ones I thought about for you. I did think about finding something, an estate car with a similar engine, so I could take parts from it whenever one went wrong, and keep one car going. But
Sneaky.
I love it whenever Neil talks about P&A Wood and talks about their Instagram of Panda Wood. And since you guys are all such fans of the Bentiaga, as you call it, I found at P&A Wood a beautiful white Bentayga, which is out of warranty. It's £85,000, so you've got some money to spend on it. It's got a full service history from P&A Wood, so it's going to be on the button for the next 5 years,
Yes.
no question, no exploding, nothing on this one. And it's actually in Panda black and white, which makes it even better.
Nice. That's
I
good.
have to say, I might have been driving one for a while, but my opinion of the Bentayga is changing quite rapidly. And the facelift one's starting to look more than okay as well. Am I wrong there or not? I don't know. I just think they're
I sort of prefer the
beast.
facelift now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer the
Yeah.
facelift.
Okay, Mr. Cooper, what's your two-car garage?
Well, for once and extraordinarily, I have, because it was so beautifully expressed and precisely expressed, I have stuck religiously and completely to all of the criteria. And you can go outside the criteria. That's fine. That's fine. Great
You go
selection. I would have loved to see SLS convertible, but not for 100 grand. So I've gone for the first car. It's got to do everything, and is more than 3 years old. Can only be a Bentley Flying Spur.
Oh,
Can you get that
100
for
grand.
100,000 now?
Do you
Well,
see
no,
that?
oh, hang on.
99.
Yeah, so that's why it says 99,950.
No,
There's a
I
clue
wasn't
in
being
the-
specific or arch like you. I was just saying, wow, aren't they cheap these days? There's a difference there, Mr. Cooper. It's in the tone of voice.
And the other one. So this was the really. I like where Philip was going this, because I was kind of going the same way. And there were two. And this is where I'm going to play the rules. I'm not going to say both. I got to choose which one. I might choose the wrong one. Actually, I got three. There are three that I think will win.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Philip, they have to put up with this every week. In the end, I went for double bubble Bentley,
oh,
and I went for that. And I think in 5 years' time, there's a very good chance that'll be worth 200 grand.
20 grand.
That's a really, really
Say
good shout.
20.
So let me tell you now.
I give you the winning entry.
We need more accurate descriptions, because Cooper's knocked that out of the park. Because normally this is easily his weakest part of the weekly show, because he shows no discipline and he gets a bit carried away. But there, he has absolutely knocked it out of the park.
But it will also cost you 200 grand.
That wasn't in the rules. There are the rules. Philip, there are the rules. Read them and weep.
I'm not
200
sure
grand.
if Bentley has ever gone up in value in my lifetime, has it?
No, right. Neil Clifford, what have you got to say? Come on, two cars, please.
Right. The car that does everything, that gets the nod at Bicester, never going to break down, kids are going to be happy, won't be car sick, looks a bit cool, not too flashy. Actually, we all know really there's only one answer. It's the Alpina B5. And this one's available at Bramley. And the reason why in Bramley writes POA, because his cars are really, really cheap. And he doesn't want to embarrass all the other dealers with such a ridiculously low price. So our good friend at Bramley, this is probably only £47,000.
I've seen that car. I've seen that exact car.
And they're normally like 70, 75, but I'm sure if you ring him up, it's going to be 49,995. give him a call.
Yeah.
And
Is that the B5 GT?
no,
Yeah.
it's not a GT.
No,
He sold a red one.
What?
No, he had a red one, GT. Sold.
Yeah.
Too cheap. He sold at Bramley. It's too cheap. So No, we love our good friend at Brandy. Now, look, if you're not a Ferrari, the only safe-ish money for growing money has got to be in Porsche. Come on.
Neil, a BMW stroke Alpina and a Porsche.
So,
No way.
and what has gone really mad over the last 5 years, doubled basically, 993.
Yes.
993.
We've got the same car.
You know, it feels like post-COVID, when you could get a nice Carrera 2 in Irish blue with sports seats variogram for 49.95.
Yeah.
Now, fucking 6 figures, isn't it? That's if you can get to it before it's sold by some other guy who thinks he's going to double in value. He's come out of Bitcoin and he's gone into 993 as an investment strategy. So I'm going 993 cab. Now, you've got to go low mileage. The issue with Porsche and Ferraris, we know, you really got to be low. Once it gets to 80, 90, you're a bit fucked. It's going to be tricky, isn't it? But so this is 30, no, that's the CCs. It's 37,000 miles from new, full history, UK car, blue with blue, it looks like. Carrera 4, bit dodgy on the Carrera 4. You really need Carrera 2, really, I think, as blue chip investment. But I'm going Carrera 4. That's 87 grand. If you plot the graph on 993, that's going to be £4,665,000.
He's not wrong.
Just call Neil Dickens. He gets them in and they sell in a day.
Yeah,
I thought you were going to go for that one. I thought you were going to go for that one because that's the other one I had.
I did have a 991 Turbo S cab, and I'm like, no.
That's not 200 grand. It's not. You made too many. Manish, what's yours going to be?
Okay, so the first car, I'd just like to say that I got it. I got the gist of it. My feeling about having to do everything is it therefore has to be some form of SUV. That's my opinion. And I'm going to discard totally the Bista, if you know, you know, because it's going to be me at Bista. And everyone's going to come chat to me and think I'm great anyway. So I'm going to take a little bit of a leeway on the car.
If you know Manish, you know.
Exactly.
Finlay, can you check the wanker filter is still working?
Womp. Okay, so I decided to start by looking at what most reliable cars of the last decade. Okay, exactly, the best car. And actually, they said the best Jaguar Land Rover that you could get is this little baby, the turbocharged MHEV Dynamic. And it's so, look at this. I found this.
God, you've got the shittest car you could possibly choose.
No, I haven't. Nothing's going to go wrong with this. And I can use it for everything except looking cool. It says I've got to drive a car for 5 years without it breaking down. Okay.
Let me just tell you what, I like this. Do you remember when the two Ronnies did answer the previous question on Masterminds? I'm now going to ask the question. You need to look like a drug baron that's just been taken back to Ireland. What car are you going to choose?
Manish Pandy.
I like
is the answer.
I like that. Nothing is going to go wrong with that car. Okay, and it's £69,000, which means I can take it to O'Rourke's and spend £31,000 on a new interior. What could possibly go wrong?
Could possibly go wrong
because I saw Gulfstream on POA, and if you're an Irish drug baron, that's definitely what you're buying for
£100,000. I believe one may well have been extradited recently back to Ireland. Anyway, I'm going full Neil with the second car, and I did see that Porsche, and it's blue on blue on blue. The free blue, but actually I found 993 Cabrio 3.6 Carrera. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's 98,000 euros, so that's about 90,000 pounds.
It's 30 grand 5 years ago, that.
And so, this thing, so basically, it's gone up 3 times already. It's gone up 3 times already, and it has 52,000 miles on it. So,
Manuel?
It is a Manuel. It is a Manuel.
Yes.
1994 Manuel.
No.
Artism is alive and well on this podcast.
It is, yeah. I mean, you do. We all do it, don't they? We're totally in denial. And by the way, there's no way a 993 is 200 grand. Someone's going to wake up and go. Someone somewhere on the planet, like the butterfly effect. Some bloke will be driving one outside Sydney, and he'll go 200 grand for a 993. It sounds like a dishwasher, and it's not very fast. And the whole world was like, "Oh, these are overrated." It's what
I have never been called a drug dealer on this podcast ever.
No, you haven't. But you've never chosen a white Range Rover with blacked out windows before. You know, seek and ye shall find. So here we go. I'm going to do this quickly because I want to talk to him about the 911K. Here we go. So first of all, obviously it's an Alpina, but you want the diesel one. The diesel one's better, Daly, and the diesel one will last longer. That's a D3 Touring, all right?
Yeah.
It's the current shape. It's fit 64 grand, which means I've got a bit more money for the other car, but I'm not really allowed to carry it over. But I can't find one of these currently, but I feel so... Don't want to do this, but I feel so strongly that this car should be a future hero that I'm going to say it in the hope that in the intervening 48 hours before we have to post this, I can find one on Car and Classic.
Yeah,
it's the first generation Aston Martin V12 Vantage Volante, the convertible one. Because I passionately believe that the next thing has to be something that's not repeatable, and I think that compact little pretty Vantage with the V12 and the manual and a roof that goes down. It's a cracking car, and I don't understand what they're not that expensive.
I like to drive, Chris, because I've been very scratchy, itchy on that car.
Mate, they're really good to drive. They need about so much torque. They need a 3-speed gearbox. You don't need the modern 7. The 7-speed later one is a nonsense. You want the early 6-speed one, and they just honestly, mate, they're gorgeous cars. And also, and I say this with the greatest of respect. Do we know what or where Aston Martin will be in 5 years' time? You might be looking at something that's Yeah. So I'm
going to say that.
So Aston Martin no longer own Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Well,
did you see that?
Somebody who owns Aston Martin owns it.
For their non-car stuff. Yeah, their non-car
stuff. So they
stuff.
sold the name to someone.
They sold the trademark.
I look forward to my new Aston Martin.
Yeah. Right, so very quickly, I want to ask this man here. You've all probably seen a video that I did with Richard Tuttle a while ago on a thing called the 911K. Now, there's much conjecture about what the K stands for. There's a lot of puns involved in this name. Explain them, please, Philip.
Well, during COVID, I live in Hong Kong, and I was traveling to see my girlfriend at the time across the Pacific. And every time I had to come back, I had to do 3 weeks in quarantine. And Richard felt badly for me one night of those 3 weeks and said, "Can you get beer?" Which I did. And we sat down, talked all things life, and then started talking all things car. And I asked him what his dream 911 would be. And because he's a bit addled, he said a 912. I said, he asked me, what would mine be? I said, something absurdly light. What does that mean? Sub 1,000 kilos. I know, come on, really? Okay, sub 800 kilos. Something that revs to the moon. Like, what's the moon? 10,000 plus RPM. Okay. We said, what else? I said, it's got to be able to jump over crests. Here in California, there's these amazing roads, but they all have tiny little crests. And I'm not saying a 5-foot gap, but, give me 6 inches and let the car land softly and keep going. Is there anything else? I said, paint it gold. And he got to work on it, and he ended up with 846 kilos wet and 11,000 RPM. It's gold. It can jump over little crests. And when he got to 11,000 RPM, he said, well, 911K, 1,000 sounds pretty good, but 911K for me sounds pretty good. And he lost his mind and started talking about motorbikes at one time. So we're not going to go there, but it's the most amazing car. And the best part of this is all these years later, that girlfriend is now my wife. And there's 33 lucky people with thank you very much, with wonderful 911Ks that I like to call a gathering of Ks a shriek. And if you've heard one, you'll understand why.
It's quite something, and I think it's sort of a metaphor for the way the industry's changed. That when you come to this part of the world, there's a lot of really nice cars here, but his 911K has got a sort of status above conventional supercars, which shows you that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago because it wasn't, a factory car. But no one gives a shit now, do they? They just want cool stuff.
I think the way the world has changed is that because of safety and because of it's easier for people to understand horsepower and numbers like that, it's really hard for people to go back to driving pleasure. And many people haven't really experienced what driving pleasure might be for them in something outside of huge numbers. And I just like low grip, lightweight, and something with a lot of soul. So that's what we keep building, and there's more weird things coming.
Yeah. So just to give you an idea, there's I've lost my 100. There's an alcoholics that's technically so light it loses traction. So it's got so much carbon fiber, his alcoholics, that Max Banks, who I talk to quite a lot, says actually that car's a bit of a problem because it's so light with carbon fiber, it can't put the power down. So he's constantly, and he can pedal a bit. This one, there's another car that might have emanated from Heffel that's coming that is outrageous. If you've seen Evo magazine, you'll see unbelievable things. So this is Chris Cooper. You got to see this thing. It's a super lightweight lease with a central driving position like the Auto by Toll cars that Philips have made. With how much power?
It's got 285 horsepower, and it only weighs 580 kilos.
Wow! Did they do it in right-hand drive?
Yes, it does.
Dick. But I think the irony is that Philips got an obsession with lightweight cars. Everything has to be taken to its ultimate extreme, and yet occasionally when I'm sitting having a meal with him, I look at us both and say, shouldn't we lose some weight?
Getting there, I'm working on it. I didn't think I'd be attacked like this.
Welcome to the podcast.
I'm looking forward to this car week thing. You can navigate my way through it. It's a pleasure having you on. And I'll come and find you about an hour's time for lunch. Is that all right?
I'm absolutely delighted. Thank you guys for having me. Congratulations on 100 podcasts. And
congratulations on your wedding.
Congratulations on getting married. Massive.
Thank you. And from all of us who listen, it is such a bright spot in the week. And it's so lovely to see him in physical form and to see you guys in stereoscope. I typically listen in black and white. And it's still a lot of fun trying to guess what cars you're showing on the screen.
All right, you're a superstar. Thank you very much. I'll see you later.
Lovely to see you.
Right, boys. Thank you very much, Philip. Let's move on. Can I do first time 100 miles an hour in a car?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had I suppose with the course of time, the passage of time, none of us can be incriminated here, can we? My first car was a Mini City 998. And I had Jan Speed exhaust manifold, centre box, and a little centre exit exhaust. I had a 1 3/4 inch SU carb, and I had 2 Corbo bucket seats, ripped the interior out, and a few other bits and bobs. Downhill with a wind, it would do 100 miles an hour on the Speedo. And I can remember just after Christmas in 1993, I was going to Wales with a couple of friends to go and get pissed in Cardiff, I think. And there was a slightly downhill section of the M4 as you're coming towards Cardiff, which is now a 50.
I know.
And we went down this hill, and I was looking at the speedo. I'd never done 100 in my own car, and I had 2 mates in the car, and for whatever reason, there was a cricket bat in the back, because I think we were having a net or something, and the most middle-class thing you've ever heard, and we're going downhill. Anyhow, I managed to squeeze her up to 100 miles an hour, at which point it felt like we were doing about 240. She was moving around quite terribly, weaving around, and it was probably not the safest thing I've ever done. And then I remember I got a sort of whack on the side of the head by this cricket bat. And and of course, when a batsman reaches 100, they wave their bat, don't they? So my mate in the back had said he thought it was appropriate to wave the bat as the Mini had 100 miles an hour, but actually hit me on the head with it at the same time. That I don't understand why I'm still alive, because I've got about 50 stories like that. But that was the first time I did 100 miles an hour. I tell you, it was more exciting and more memorable than doing 230 in a Veyron, because it's back then 3 figures. That's what it's all about, wasn't it, Mr. Cooper? Tell us about 3 figures.
Because if you're as old as me, then there weren't many cars that did 100 miles an hour that you could get your hands on. You just didn't have them. And I'm trying to think. The weird thing is, I think it took me quite a long time to get to 100 miles an hour, because I didn't own a car that would do 100 miles an hour until I had a Renault 5 GT Turbo in 1990.
Same.
And I'm pretty sure I did 100 miles an hour on that, because that would have done about 120. tops.
Yeah.
According to Autocar.
Also, it got there. It would have got there quite quickly. They were fast cars.
It did. So, but it wasn't that. I'm pretty sure in the days when company car insurance was as generous as it was, and a 17 or 18-year-old was allowed to drive something you wouldn't get allowed to drive today, I'm pretty sure it was a Ford Granada. And it would have been 2.8 carburetted, non-injection Ford Granada with that Cologne V6, which did hard to think of a V6 that did greater disservice to the cause of the V6 than that, possibly with exception.
Can I just... I'm sorry to interrupt. Did I send you that advert of the Ford Granada the other? I think I did. Where remarkably, in the mid-80s, when it moved to the 2.8 injection, it specified in the advert that if you wanted, you could still specify a carburetted engine. So that was an option.
Yes.
Do you think that was because people were scared of new technology? Or did they have a particular... Were they so sensitive to throttle response they knew when it was on carb? Why do you think that was the case?
I think they bought a lot of carburetors. I think they had a lot of carburetors to get rid of. And that's what they knew, and they did what they liked.
An option.
You know what? You're absolutely right. Of course you are.
I reckon it would have been...
Carry on.
I reckon it would have been... There was a bit of dual carriageway on the road towards Whitstable in North Kent. Is that the A2, A20? Not A20. Somebody tells what it is. I should look this up. Apologies. There was a bit of dual carriageway that I reckon, with a bit of a clear road ahead and a bit of forward planning, you might have got that over 100. And I'm pretty sure, because the thing is, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have looked away from the road, because this thing would have been... So it would have been about 1981, 82, something like that.
Like it. Manish, have you ever done 100 miles an hour?
I have, but I was a passenger the first time I did it. And this is... So I think I've told the story. My friend Dan, his father, bought a BMW 635 CSI, deep metallic green tan leather. It was... We used to call it the Shark. And he gave me a phone call the first weekend that his parents bought the car, but they were away. And it was very late in the evening. He called me at 11 and said, "Do you want to go out in the Shark?" And I went, "Yeah." And he said, "I'll come and pick you up." And he managed to get to 108 miles an hour just between Hook and Winchfield, very straight section of M3. And a few very well-known pop stars have been busticated there at that time. David Essex in a Porsche, Eric Clapton in a Ferrari.
What word you used, Manish? Sorry?
Busticated. They were busticated by the police.
I thought you
David
said
Essex, what a good-looking bloke.
David Essex in his silver dream machine, and Eric
Silver dream machine.
Oh boy, I'll tell you, that was the most exciting time of my life in a car ever at that point. That car was beautiful, and you could just hear the wind howling a little bit in that car. The engine was making this extraordinary noise, and it was night on a motorway. It was just...
Also makes it feel faster, and you've got that. Those cars had that red lighting to the clock faces. That they were sort of underlit.
Beautiful.
With this flood of red light that used to come over the dials.
Yes.
Oh, amazing times. Neil Clifford.
Okay, here's the car. It's the Granada. I think
the coupe.
Mine was a 3-litre Mark 1 Granada gear coupe in that blue, actually, with the vinyl roof and the manual sunroof. It was one of the uncles, as they say. I think he didn't hang around long. I think my mum met him at the casino. We just went out for a little drive. He showed me the electric windows. I mean, it could be all a bit suspect now, couldn't it? But it wasn't the real uncles, who were, funnily enough, all called Reg. Where have all the Reg's gone? Maybe Reg is going to come back as a name, actually, but it wasn't the bingo manager. It wasn't the other Reg that had a hotel in Littlehampton. This was just a lovely guy. Do you like cars? Come on. We did 100 miles an hour from Portsmouth up to Porchester and back. And that's an auction. Unfortunately, it's not on Car and Classics, so I can't name the auction. But it's estimate.
Yeah, you can. Of course you can. Name the auction.
This is ACA Auctions. I think that's the one in Norfolk, isn't it? And this 8 to 10 grand. Look at that.
Okay, cool. Well, let's do some music now then. Okay, here we go. So let's go to Neil Clifford first.
Well, Haircut 100.
Oh, very good.
Fantastic day.
Oh, for fuck's
Great
sake.
song. Dun, 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 dun. You as well.
Okay, Manish.
I actually picked a song by a band called Arrival from 1970. In January, it was number 8 in the charts, and the song is called Friends. And it's a wonderful 70s ballad. And the chorus is friends beside you, friends to guide you, friends beside you, everywhere.
Oh, very good, Manish. Chris Cooper.
I thought about the band Haircut 100. I thought there was some sort of... I thought there was something alliterative and sort of a line there. Do you? If you see, it was in Nick Hayward, wasn't it? Haircut 100.
Yeah.
Nick Hayward. Yeah. He looks. Yeah. If you're listening to this, Nick, if you are listening to it, thank you, and poor soul. He looks just as young today as he did when he was Nick Hayward. When he was like, he had that very, very. So, they did this. They did this song called "Fantastic Day," which I thought was shit. So I would never have picked that, but I did pick that because I really like it. But their canon of work is so stuffed with episode 100 goodness that it's got to be Boy Meets Girl.
Oh, it's great.
Boy Meets Girl.
I had the blazer, I had the cricket jumper over my shoulders, I had the fake glasses, everything.
Honestly, Tuco. Is he smelt John Elkann?
I think John Elkann's in the corridor.
You're bringing Tuco down to Cornwall on Friday.
I am. I can't wait. So it's Sunday. We'll be in Cornwall on Sunday.
Okay. Yeah.
I have been.
Where do you want me to pick you up on the A30?
B3177.
You know what? That is below the belt. That was. I tell you what, if that was a boxing match, you'd be pulled aside now and have a point deducted for that because that was a low blow.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
But just in case, make sure you got a tow rope in the defender, mate. All right. So here we go. I've been listening to so much music because over here you regularly do 5-hour stints in the car because it's just vast and it's really quite pleasant. Roof down. This Bentley's got an optional stereo in it. It's not got the name. I wish it did have the name. It's got the one below it. I don't know, but it's pretty damn good when the roof's down. And good God, we listen to some great music with some fantastic bands. But the single best tune I've listened to that I've come back to a few times is that amazing Bruno Mars and Anderson collaboration album called An Evening with Silk Sonic, which I think is the buttery, smoothest funk album since the 70s. And Fly As Me is just it's a brilliant piece of music from people at the very top of their game. It is the Ferrari F12 of funk for me. It's absolutely difficult to fault it. You know, it's the Luca and Sergio combination, but committed to music. Now, on that note, I am now, on behalf of the four of us, going to bid you farewell from this episode 100. Thank you for coming on this journey. I've got one piece of housekeeping to announce now, right? And none of you is allowed to speak after this. None of you. This week, I bought Ferrari 456. And that's the end.